So welcome to this session on how to use OBS, Open Broadcasting Software. This is software that's new to me, so I'm a beginner teaching others, but I have spent some time exploring it and figuring out some of the details and how it in particular might apply to people who are wanting to do broadcasts during this time of COVID, doing educational sessions and so on. It is a really powerful way to mix different types of video on the fly live, record it, and put it to YouTube or other places. One of the primary places this software is used is something called Twitch, which is a video game streaming service. So a lot of people will have their video game running, recording it, and getting feedback, and even people will donate and vote for them, and there's all sort of interactivity that can happen as people are playing video games. I'm not covering the video game portion of it, or not focusing on that. My focus is on how we would use it as an educational tool. So just so you know, the software is free and open source. It's available on Linux, Mac, and Windows. I happen to be using the Windows version right now. The reason I chose that is because I can do something called a virtual camera. So this has also a selection of plugins. And I'll talk about the virtual camera, but basically that allows me to output as if I had a webcam, and the output from the software is treated as a webcam feed. And that makes it easy to bring it into this Google Meet. You're going to see that I have quite a bit going on. So I have a different computer that's running this than the one I'm broadcasting from, so that I could continue to interact with you while messing around with the video stream, because it gets a little confusing when you have too many things going on at once. So I'm going to show you my setup. So what I've done is I have my laptop sitting on a box there, and then I have a screen to the side that is running OBS Studio and mirroring right now what you are seeing. I've put several lights around in order, these are just cheap lights off of Amazon, in order to provide some fill lighting since I'm in an attic. And I've put a sheet of green. Now, if I really wanted to do this right, I would make sure it was flat and even. But for our purposes demonstrating right now, this is enough to be fun. Another addition I have is I have a microscope here with my camera for it, and some electronic component down there that I can use as an example. So I'll be able to show you how you might switch between video scenes and move between them and actually combine streams. So let me go ahead and jump to it. I am going to ask, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to stream from another channel, and I'll ask you to pin that channel so that this one from my laptop that's providing the audio doesn't take over. And the way you pin is you hover over that particular box, and you click the little picture of attack. So let me make sure that I get, all right. So you should see the one that I am going to do right here. And all right, so I should be sharing a screen that's popping up right now. It may automatically dominate, but if not, you can pin it. And then I'll be in the background. So when you open it up, this is OBS Studio. You're just going to have a blank screen. Now, the way that it's organized is into scenes. So scenes are composites of different elements that you can quickly switch between. And then there's sources. So the first source that I'm going to do is I'm going to add I've added my webcam. And the way I did it is I clicked this little plus sign, and you have all types of different sources that you can pull from. And I went to video capture source, and I clicked create new, and then I selected my webcam from the list, and I used the defaults and added it. So I'm not gonna add it right now. Oh, I can remove it actually, because I already have one right here. And just like when you're working with Photoshop and layers and other pieces of software, you have a little eyeball, and that eyeball can turn on and off what's happening. So now the scene that you're seeing in OBS is a different feed. That's my feed from my webcam. And that's where the video is coming from. So I have this video, and what I can do with it is I can start applying filters. So I have my haphazard green screen behind me. I'm maybe not the best lit because my webcam on this computer is not very good. So I can go, I'm clicking my second mouse button on either this box, or to target more easily, because if you have layers of things you can miss, you can go here, click your second mouse button, and select filters. Filters is going to bring up this dialog, which has two types of filters. So you can add audio filters, audio and video filters, but you can add video effects. So I'm going to start with effects. The way you add them, just like other things in here, is this little plus sign at the bottom. And you can see I have a whole selection of options: sharpening, scrolling, others. Well, I'll just add scroll to show you adding something. So yeah, we'll call it scroll. And now it brings up a specific dialog box to that. So if I want to scroll sideways, I am now moving sideways. I can get on an elevator and move along on my virtual elevator here. We can have it be just without a loop. Oop. So I'm moving around. Anyways, so we don't need scroll. That's just going to make us dizzy. What I am interested in doing is bringing down the shape of this. So I'm adding a crop filter. Now you can see there's a number of numbers here: left, right, up, down, so on. I'm going to enable that. And so that now has cropped my little video to a specific area that includes the green screen. Now I'm going to go to chroma key, which is the name for green screen, because you can actually have any color be your green screen. And so in this case, I selected this green color. I just eyeballed it. There's probably a better way to do it. You have this little color chooser, and I just looked and selected something that was approximately, it's probably actually like a little bit deeper, something close to it. So I selected that, and we're going to enable it actually so we can see what we're dealing with. And now you have the preview. It looks like actually I've introduced a little bit of error because I'm seeing through my shirt. So I could go in and continue to tweak the color. If I wanted to only use maybe the little bit brighter, that's maybe a little bit better. There's this thing called similarity, which shows you how similar to that green target color all the included pixels are. So this allows you either to have a little, if my screen was completely flat, I could target it a little better. Then there's some other settings like smoothness that will get rid of, see that edge around me. So that will sort of help to bleed over the edge, but you don't want to go too far. Then there's color spill that does something similar. It gets rid of the, it almost is like, I don't quite understand, but stops with the spill. So I think this is, I mean, I've got a little bit of an edge, but I don't know. Good enough for government work right now. Let's go ahead and say we'll close that. Oh, sorry, I wanted to do one more filter. Because my webcam on my laptop is pretty bad, I'm going to do some color correction as well. So there's various settings here. I'm going to turn this on. So I tweaked it just to make myself a little brighter. You can, of course, do pretty extreme gradations of hue and other elements. Mostly I tweak like saturation. I'm typing on the wrong keyboard. I do saturation and other things just to make sure that I look appropriate. All right, so I have imported my scene, and I can move it around as a free floating box, and I can resize it. It resizes proportionately unless you hold down like another key. I have to do it. I did like Shift or Control or something. Alt is one that will allow you to do an additional level of quick crop. So you can crop this box, and that crop is indicated by a green line. So I'm holding down the Alt key and moving this little bubble. And let's see if I hold Shift. Does it deform? Yes. So I can deform if I hold down Shift, but otherwise it will keep your aspect ratio. And now I'm a little bit off. So does that make sense to begin? Because we'll move on to the next level of green screen and scenes. Any burning questions? Well, before I jump into the next part.
That is so cool.
Yeah, microscope cam sick. It says, can the color chooser sample from the video scene? I mean, that would be great. Intuitively, that's what I think would happen. I've tried it. It didn't immediately work for me, so I moved on to matching. But that's a great thing to look into and a feature to request, perhaps. Cool. So I'm going to go ahead and change my, I set up this green screen. And so this green screen is composed of a couple of layers. So when you look down here, we have my laptop webcam. I can turn that on and off, of course, and apply different filters. And then I've added a library in the background. You see, I also have an office below it. So this is layers, just like anything else. So I can click on that office, and I can drag it above the library. And now I am a character in an office environment. I also have, say, a wallpaper here, which is a nice wallpaper. You may notice that because I'm streaming my audio through my laptop, but I'm streaming the video through a thing, my audio is probably not synced up. But if we were, if I wasn't both trying to show the interface that I'm working in and do this, I would be able to better sync the audio. Another element is you can add video clips. I mean, and this is just same way. You come in here, and one of these options is media source, and a media source can be a video clip. So I'm going to reveal it, hide these other guys. And now I am in a, got to watch the crop box. I'm in a nice cafe post-COVID with people walking around slightly out of focus in the background. That allows you to add atmosphere and those sorts of things. So you have these, and all of these clips you can see can be selected individually. Sometimes it's easier to select down here, just so you grab the right one. And then I can move that scene around in the background, expand it, contract it to make sure I'm getting what I like. Another thing that's sort of fun is I can add another video source. Same thing. I went here, I plugged in my camera for my microscope, and I went to video capture device, add new, and then I just selected it from the drop down box. So we'll turn on my microscope. So behind me, you see a live feed of the
Microbit.
yeah, of the microbit. Now, of course, it can't easily, because where I've positioned the microscope, be in the scene. Pretend that my hand's my head, but there it is. And I can do all of the things that you would do with a microscope. I can, zoom in
So cool.
and focus. And focus. There we go.
Are you focusing, or you have automatic focus?
I'm focusing. I'm just
Nice. Look
too
at
many
that.
things going on at once. But this would allow me, for example, to put something I'm working on. Say maybe I'm doing a demonstration on nature and I want to show plants or other elements. Or if I'm soldering or doing components, in that case, I'd probably put this right in front of me. You could also use another webcam. So you can plug in multiple webcams, and I could have one webcam focus on my hands. So that might be great for sewing or knitting, things that really, you don't need a microscope, but you can have it right on your hands. So there's a lot you can do with mixing videos. So another source can be your desktop or a window. So I'm going to move over to this scene that I have set up. And so what I'm going to do is I'm first going to turn on a video captured here. So right now I am capturing I think that could just be confusing. Maybe what I'll do is I'll capture another. Yeah, here we go. So we'll just go OBS. So you can see that I'm capturing this window. Oh, hello. So what if you don't mind, John, if you don't mind muting, yeah, thank you. What I can do is click window capture. So we have window capture, display capture, and game capture. Let me just explain a little bit about these. I've explored somewhat. So display capture captures your desktop. And then you get to pick which of the two desktops. So I'm going to go into the display capture. So all you get is this, and it says, do you want to display 1 or display 2? And you're going to see everything that is on my display. Now, if I do a window capture, it's going to pop open with all of the, I'm going to say add window. So these are all of the windows that it sees open on my computer right now. And then I can target those windows and it will present just that window. The last one is game capture, right? So a game capture is a particular, so games will often run in a special type of window. So they don't run in a regular window or on your desktop. They have different resolutions. They're using hardware acceleration. And you might have other software that does something like this. It's in a dedicated window. So you use the game capture when you are doing something that is running in this special environment. And so it's better suited to it. One, I guess, thing of caution or bump that I ran into, when I initially went to go capture scenes, I kept getting a blank screen. And that was based on that my laptop, like many laptops, it has a graphics accelerator, and then it has a built-in graphics driver that's integrated. And it chooses which one of those it's going to use based on saving battery. So when it's running something heavily graphic, it runs the one graphic card. And when it's trying to save batteries, it uses the integrated lower level graphics. Well, OBS didn't know which one to do. So I had to go into my NVIDIA graphics card settings and tell it not to use the acceleration on OBS so that it was pulling from the integrated graphics card. So if you end up trying to share your screen and it's just blank, it could be that you have two graphics cards. And that's only typically applicable to laptops. So just be aware if you run into that hurdle. We have this sharing, and of course can manipulate this scene just like any others. Now, if I was showing this tutorial, one of the things I might want to do is to have a text at the bottom. I might want to have myself in the little bottom corner. So this is something you see people do. So the full screen is dedicated to what you're teaching about, but you're still a little pop-up down here. And so there's the ability to add text. It's just this text option here. I'm going to show you. So I'm saying I'm going to put a little caption, J.R. Logan, OBS user, all in uppercase, okay, but it doesn't show up because it's white. And so what I'm going to do is you can add just a color source. So that's just an option to add a block of color. That block of color is there, and it's in back. So I did a little bit to this block of color. If we go to properties, I probably could have done it there actually, but must have done it in filters. So I went to filters, and I went to color correction, and I gave it an opacity. So I made it somewhat clear. So it can be fully opaque, you can't see through it, or a little clear. That just gives some background. I also could have uploaded a specific image, like a frame, like they use on the news, and that would, I could have used that and then cropped it. It also observes transparency on a PNG image so that you can have soft edges on it. So that allows me this nice little transparent box for my stream. So that gives us, let's talk about how I would set up an interview. So the scene here is composed. I want to put a little MakeHaven title box on top. I wanted to have the debate, the great debate caption at the bottom. And I have my own video stream, but now I'm going to pull one from a different source. And that's actually why I had set this up. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick one of you that I want to talk with. We're going to pin you. And so I can now mess with the crop. So because I'd played with it before, but it wasn't quite the same. So I can go to filters. Oh, I didn't do this crop through the filter. I must have done it through the environment up here, which is green. So yeah. So I just move it over. So I've got him pretty centered. And, then I can adjust the square so it's appropriate. I could, of course, shrink and expand him. So I would mess around until this is there. I could also add the library in the background. I could turn off the green screen on myself so that we look, I guess the library is a little bit, it might have made more sense to just do a flat color. Just do a color source, sure. And we'll select, let's do a nice purple. Okay, and then I'll move that color source down. And so now we're having a MakeHaven meeting on purple. And I could be broadcasting or recording this specific session, just the scene that I'm generating for somebody. So that gives you some sense of what the powers of composing things are. Now, you can move between these scenes as well. So I'm going to go to what's called studio mode. This is over on the side. And studio mode allows you to queue up. So everybody is seeing what's in the program window. And in the preview window is my is my scene that I have coming up. And I can fade them over by clicking this fade button.
Oh.
And it will fade over that new scene. Or I can simply go and have a preset up transition. So you have time, various different wipes, and so on. And I can say transition. And then it will transition. It will cue the last one up. So this is good if you had like two people talking, or you had a guest on and you wanted to cut to their image and then cut back to the larger group as you are debating or talking. And there's a whole selection of options in here. It's also, I'm not focusing this on audio. It's also worth noting that just like there's all the video properties, there's a whole selection of filters related to the audio channels, and you can mix things. One of, I think, the more powerful things is, remember how to get to that scene, properties, and I've lost exactly where it is. Maybe it's this. Here it is, advanced filters. So you have different audio sources, and then you're automatically recording on multiple tracks. Now, you do have to make sure that the format that you're recording to, so I know that like MOV records multiple tracks, but I think MP4 compresses them into a single track. So you do have to have a compatible output that you're putting it to. But you can go ahead and say, I don't want to record my mic mix to track 5. And that way, when you're working with that video later on, you can isolate just, now your webcam and your desktop audio, or you can mix and match. This would be, this is just useful because it gives you more tools in the editing room. So know that there's a whole powerful set of tools related to audio mixing as well. So when you are recording, there's a start recording option. But first, I'll just go into settings. These are your basic settings that kind of stick around. One thing you can do on here, which is really cool, is you can stream live to YouTube or Twitch. In which case, what you're going to do is you're going to get your stream key, which is a private key that if somebody gets it, they can stream to your channel. So you don't want to show it. That's why it's hidden here. You click Get Stream Key, and it will take you to the appropriate web page on that service where you can get your secret key. You'll obviously have to log in. And then that will enable the ability to go live with streaming. There are several different services that are applicable and can be used. And you can configure your output and your other settings. So a couple of things that they allow you to change your refresh rate. If you have a good camera, if you're doing things fast, you might want a higher refresh rate, like 60. That's going to cost you bandwidth and processing power. So more typical would be 30, but they allow you to stream different, different output rates based on those needs, or different bit rates and recording other things. So I'm outputting to video, and then I'm integrating. You can actually record multiple streams simultaneously. We won't get into that. Here's where I was talking about the settings for video. I'm doing too much on it right now, so I can't change these settings while everything's active, but you could see resolution, frames per second at 30 rather than say 60, which you might do if you're doing a game or a lot of actions. For those that want to be masters and commanders of this thing, ninjas of the OBS world, you can assign all sorts of custom hotkeys. So rather than trying to fiddle around, you have your most commonly used actions at a quick keystroke. And then if that wasn't advanced enough, there's an advanced tab, which I won't even start to get into. So that's our settings. And since I've set our settings up, I can record. And it's as simple as clicking that button, and it's going to do the recording until I press stop record. If I now go to my videos, I will see that it is in my list of videos saved as an MPEG MP4 in this case. You'll notice at the bottom it has my CPU usage and my frames per second. So it looks like I have I'm not getting great frames. I'm not quite sure why. Probably because I'm doing a lot. And then the last thing we can try is to actually stream to YouTube. There's one more thing I will show you guys. So I talked a little bit about how Twitch and those types of game systems have lots of interactivities, and people can give people props and have a chat scene and so on. Well, there is a service called Streamlabs that's basically aimed at the Twitch community. But I'll take you off here, Robert. I'm sorry. It's not fair. It's been aimed at the Twitch community, and it allows certain activities. So if somebody, for example, were to become a subscriber of our YouTube channel, while I'm doing a live stream, it would pop up with a congratulatory star, or I could be collecting donations in like a live donation pledge, and it would pull up a dialog box at the bottom that would say, congratulations, for your donation. Thank you to JR. So we'll actually build that as a live thing. So did I already have it up? I do. So I'm going to share that screen. Let's see if I can change the filters. All right. So this is just a website called Streamlabs. And Streamlabs allows you to, once you've connected your YouTube channel to it, it allows you to start to add some of these widgets or alert boxes. There's lots of variations. So you can see there's donations, there's YouTube subscriber, there's chat options, and so on. What I'm going to do is I'm going to say, like, wouldn't it be cool if every time we had a YouTube subscriber or a donation, that it's going to show some custom scene. So it's going to initiate basically an animation that will show up in that I'll make show up in OBS. The options. Oh, go back to alert box. The options are right here. I'm going to actually have to transition. Sorry, I need to go back to out of studio mode, so I'm seeing what I'm getting. So this is just the website, Streamlabs, and the variations are right here. The different options you can turn on and off, and then if I go to donation, I have the settings. So I picked this little GIF of a funny little dog. Now you can go and upload your own or add various stock photography. And you can create different sounds, and there's various options. So on donation, it's going to do this. So I'm going to send a test, and it's showing what it will look like. What it creates is a URL. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to copy the URL, and I'm going to add it to a new window. Oh, pasting it on the wrong computer. Add it to a new window. So this window appears blank, except for when I initiate something, inside of this. So I'll just click it and then run back real quick. All right, so it pops up with this not very square on here. You have to do little adjustments. All right, so every time I click on that button, or somebody actually does it, it's going to create this this animation. And so what I can do is, rather than just stream it through a window, I'm going to add a new source on my OBS, and I am going to add a browser output. This will take it right from the browser. I already actually created one for the alert box. All right. So here is a box that shows nothing. I'm going to add my, we'll just add my video, video capture source, and we'll use my laptop camera. So I'm on here, I'm talking to you guys, talking to you about, and this scene is just a different, talking to you about whatever I'm talking to you about. And somebody makes a donation, and that should be, let's put it, make sure this is on the top. Somebody makes a donation. I'm going to go into the alert. Oh, that's the, I'm going to go on this one. Makes a donation. I'm going to say test. And so now it's superimposed over top dynamically. So I wouldn't have to do anything to make that happen. It would just be initiated by that website. Now, you could similarly, if you had some web development skills, create other widgets that make something appear because some condition happens on the internet, and you can overlay it using this generic browser edition, which inputs the browser page and makes the background, the transparent background, not visible. And so now you have a chat box or a widget or voting or anything you want superimposed on top of your scene. So one other thing I'll mention is, so by default, this does not output to, say, like a Google Hangout. So what I had to do to get that to work is I added a virtual camera. So what this does is, rather than just outputting to a recorded file or to your stream, it outputs as if it was an input from a physical USB camera. It fakes a computer out and does it in software. And so that way, inside of my Google Hangout, I was able to change my video source to that camera. So maybe I will even pull that up so you can see, because that's going to be something you may likely do. And I will have to change my source to properties, and we'll go to right. We've got Robert. We pinned Robert. Well, we're over now. There's the two of us, but I'm in his house. Yeah. It does get a little, when you have all these happening at the same time, it's a little something to keep it straight. So I was showing Google Meet and how I was able to present. So under settings now, I have, under video, I have a new type of camera called an OBS. Oh, I'm in the way. Called an OBS camera. There I can choose it, and anything I modify gets outputted to that camera.
And you can select it from within Meet?
Yep, exactly. So in Meet, you go to settings, and then you can go to video, and then you change your camera. Now, I did have a little trouble this might have just been me installing. It didn't instantly recognize it, and I had to go to some forms, and I had to manually copy the files over into the plugin directory in Windows. So it is a plugin. There, there's a little bit additional labor. It's a little more advanced to use it, but once the plugin is activated, it shows up as a tool, virtual camera, and you can turn it on or auto start it, change its aspect ratio. I chose to flip it horizontally so that text shows up right, because Google Meet flips it so that you look at yourself right. So those are various options inside of the virtual camera, and that's how I was able to pipe this through the Hangout. Great. I have covered my list of things that I said I would cover, and we have a few minutes to chat. So maybe we open up for questions, and I see that there's a whole bunch of comments that I have not been keeping track of. So questions, anyone? I see, is it possible to mic up something like a fan or a saw, which makes a lot of noise, to be masked by the audio? So there is noise reduction options inside the audio settings. But I think rather than trying to take out that sound with software, I would mic up the person and try and get the audio from them directly as cleanly as possible. And my experience with noise reduction and removing things is it's very limited. Can remove annoying regular sounds, but something that might be dynamic, like cutting through a piece of wood, which is going to have a changing sound over a period of time, is going to be very difficult to isolate, and you're going to degrade your audio to the point where it's not going to be worth it. But that's I'm not an audio engineer, and so others might have a better sense of it. Yeah, the people are saying it's like a 90s video. Some of the different scenes. I can do a lot better than what I'm doing right now. So my filters, and we can do color correction, and we can really get kind of crazy. Right, and that, and scroll, and maybe I want to add, I wonder if I have any other, well, the green screen, I could add some cool background videos that make me really trippy, but I'll save you the headache. Cool. Got to take those filters off before we. All right. So other questions. Can the color chooser sample from the video? So yeah, I talked about that a little earlier. Not that I'm aware of. I tried it and it wasn't instantly apparent how you do it, but that would be a great feature. Yeah, that's everything. So the only other thing I can try, but I haven't done a lot of, because I haven't wanted to mistakenly broadcast, is to try streaming it to our YouTube channel. So if folks want to see that happen, let's give it a shot. I'm going to find where did I put the meetup crop laptop? Meet. Oh, this is my Streamlabs with me. So I'm gonna go ahead and stream just this scene. Maybe I'll put a nicer background on there. We'll do the media source. We'll do the existing outdoor eating, and we'll put that below. We'll move me down. No, let me just select myself. We'll just do this. We'll go ahead and just start streaming. So now, if we went over to our YouTube channel,
How do I get to it?
let me share this other.
Is it a MakeHaven channel?
Yeah, so I'm going to go, there's just YouTube's MakeHaven. So I'm going to stop sharing, and then I'm going to share Chrome tab.
Oops, that didn't work.
All right, so we're going to go to MakeHaven. And so if everything went right, it should be live streaming, which it does not appear to be. So I have a little learning to do to figure out exactly. It could also be that I'm just not presenting the live stream right. But this is something I haven't played a lot with, but want to get better at it. If somebody hasn't subscribed, do you want to try and subscribe to our channel and see if the pop-up happens?
Can I just type it into YouTube and have it go there?
Yeah, you could just search for. Oh, I'm in the wrong.
I'm ready for the YouTube.
Yeah, so what you
identifier.
It keeps opening a new tab.
It's playing. I have it in another window.
It is playing?
Yep.
Cool. All right. Well, I'm sure that folks are, this is for anybody randomly watching, we are testing OBS. This is just a test. So I need to figure out how to even get to my own streamed.
So what am I searching for in YouTube?
Hey, Richard, JR, I put the link in the chat.
Oh, cool. So everyone, the link is in the chat. I'm going to grab it so we can see it. And
it seems so weird. Is there a dot between the U and the B?
All right. So now
it seems so weird. Is there a dot between the U and the B?
So there is my streamed version. So it's coming from my webcam.
It seems so weird. Is there a dot between the U and the B?
So there is my there's my streamed version. So it's coming from my webcam.
Now it seems so weird. Is there a dot between the U and the B?
So there is my there's my streamed version. So I think we have some.
Now it seems so weird. Is there a dot between the U and the B?
So there is my there's my streamed version. So I think we have some.
Now it seems so weird. Is there a dot between the U and the B?
Yeah, so there is my there's my stream. All right. So that was interesting. It's live and it's playing, but it with all the computers and all of you, there's some kind of feedback loop. Yeah. So now we are now we're at the end, and I can answer other questions. Hopefully this was enlightening. Rich, I muted you when the if you're trying to talk when other things are happening. Great.
Can I make a comment?
Sure. Yeah.
Obviously, this software is being used by the people at SketchUp. I don't know if you've ever watched them, but they've done live streaming for a while. And once they've done this, they would do it like once every other Friday or something. But since the lockdown, the guy who does it, Aaron Dietzen, has set up his studio in his garage, and they're doing it 3 times a week: Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 2 p.m. our time. They're out in Colorado, but they have the setup so that he shares his screen so you can see what he's doing in SketchUp. They have a camera on him with a green screen, just like you did, so you can see him as a talking head in the lower left corner. They have another camera above his computer looking straight down at his keyboard, so you can watch his hands right next to his head. And then they use a piece of software called Keycaster on the Mac, which will display whatever keystrokes you do. So if you go Command-Shift-Return or something, it throws that up on the screen so you can see what he's typing while it goes. So they've got it down to a system using this stuff for live streams. And
yeah, absolutely. And you could totally do that yourself.
Amazing.
Completely within your capabilities using this type of software.
Yeah.
Yeah. Any other comments or questions, or is anybody inspired to try something or achieve something? Sounds like Robert, you might want to use this for classes or other activities, so you can share. Have all of these things. You could have the keystrokes overlaid with your, show a picture of your hand using the tablet.
Right, exactly. Watching him and go, geez, I could do that. And fine detail work. So I was thinking about doing one camera for myself and then having a webcam where if there's anything on the table, you can zoom in on the table. And then I can have 2 scenes. One is like hands and table beside me, so that it's almost like I'm interviewing my hands, I guess. But then you can always cut to the zoomed in scene by transitioning. So, yep. Great. Well, I think we've...
Hey, JR, I had a quick question about time-lapse. It might not be relevant to this, but for a longer process, manufacturing or stuff like that, longer builds, is there any solutions for time-lapse built into this software?
Not built into this software. So what you would do, that also not built in that I know of, it's all focused around modifying images on the fly. The way that you would do that is you would bring in a video source. So you would record your time lapse in advance, and then while you're streaming, you would have that queued and you would pop it into your studio. So you could bring the time lapse in, but obviously it'd be pre-recorded because we can't fast forward time. The way that a piece of software that I've enjoyed using for that type of thing has been DaVinci Resolve. So DaVinci Resolve is not open source, but it is the basic version, which is really advanced, is made freely available. And so you can certainly change the speed of a recording in there, output it, and then make it available to the software.
Have you been using DaVinci Resolve?
I have. We like, for example, our orientation video that has all the captions and lots of cuts was done on DaVinci Resolve.
Oh, it's another thing I've been wanting to learn.
Yeah, I might get Lior to be the teacher because it's deep. And it really takes somebody who has played with it. Though at the same time, in the spirit of doing these and not claiming to be an expert, just claiming to be a person who's exploring, I certainly could take y'all through the basic functionality of using DaVinci Resolve. And that if that's interesting, we can do that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. For me too, I've been interested in getting into time-lapse as well. But haven't really looked into what software people enjoy using. I'm also a sign language interpreter, and so I've been wanting to use OBS to have different interpreters and different ways to have multiple signed languages, international sign languages on the screen at one time. So this will be very helpful. Thank you.
Great. I'm glad. That's a great purpose for it. Wonderful. Well, if there's no other questions, I think we are at that hour. And thank you all for attending and exploring and figuring out how we can use this very cool open source software. Thanks again.
Thanks.